All right, everybody, and welcome to the 9 Years podcast, episode 270, with myself, Nick Draper, and the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deacons. And this week, we have no idea what we're going to be talking about, where the podcast goes, nobody knows, because we just don't have time to script this thing anymore. I feel like a bit of deja vu. I think I said this over the last couple of weeks. We've certainly said this in years past, but sometimes it works out for the best. What we do have to talk about is, of course, FA Cup victory, progress into the second round, but we've now got 2 weeks, essentially. Well, I suppose by the time this podcast goes out, 1 week, of no game. So we'll probably talk about Don's Trust elections and things like that, and fan ownership, perhaps, Stu, as that seems to be the thing that everyone wants to talk about at the moment. We will get onto the Guiseley game very shortly. Yeah, Don's Trust elections, Facebook, social media. Tell you what, Stu, here's a place to start. Neil Ardley, was it in the Daily Mail or the Mail Online? Was quoted discussing about the pressure on managers these days, and he says owners and foreign owners get the blame and things like that. But he says it all starts with the fans on social media, and it's becoming a bigger and bigger issue. And we said this for years on this podcast about social media. Worst invention ever. And it's terrible. Stu, it's terrible. It's so bad. And when we get on to something else in a minute about elections, I'm going to quote from one of my favourite books. And it's going to come from the same guy that's told you, and I've been quoting on here, about the coddling of the American mind, about the damaging effect social media is having on everyone's lives. And it's constant, and yet we just carry on as if it's all fine. And but I think Neil Ardley was right when he said, it starts on social media. Fans are impatient. One defeat and they're starting to moan. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is getting it worse than anyone at the moment, I would imagine. I mean, he's getting paid enough, to be fair, but that still doesn't mean it's okay. We've totally lost our minds when it comes to this thing, haven't we? In terms of pressure on managers. Let's start with that element of this first. Pressure on managers via social media. Yeah,
I've only seen a few extracts of what Neil Ardley said in the Daily Mail. I do intend to read it, although it probably won't surprise me. But I think what I did read was that he said that you say that owners don't read social media, but if they don't read it, they still get someone who they know reads it and tells them. So, you know, if you lose a game or you're under pressure straight away. And he was also saying that actually you're under pressure because it's not just the match day, it's the whole week, because social media doesn't stop for match days. Whereas the old days, we say the old days, you sort of like, it would just be match day, wouldn't it? But now it's continuous through the whole week. And of course you have podcasts and forums, which probably don't help either on that side of it. But yeah, he also said like he encouraged them. They lived in a bit of a bubble where they didn't discuss the football or the social media, you know, just staying away from it.
His family.
On that side of it. So yeah, the pressure on managers is ridiculous. Neil Warnock was interesting. Got his a record game, wasn't it? And managing like 1,000 and something at Luton, get sacked. Game after.
He was at Middlesbrough. They lost to Luton, and then.
He did. He made his the record game managing was at Luton, wasn't it?
Yes.
Luton then beat him. You get a Norwich manager wins his first game, gets sacked.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Dean Smith at Aston Villa, which I just find amazing. If you look at his record since he went to Villa, amazing. And he said he released a statement via the League Managers Association, which they all do now. And he had a bit
not everyone.
Well, not everyone. Yeah.
No.
But it was interesting. He thanked the owners for. He wouldn't say they're rubbish, would he? Because obviously might want another job. But he said like he had assured the owners that he had key players missing, and that when they were back, the results would start to improve. And they just reacted.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what I think with the managers nowadays is, if once they're under pressure, it doesn't let off, does it? The press, the journalists, you know, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, always under. You know, you've got Rio Ferdinand going, he shouldn't be in the job. Who needs enemies? What do you mean got that?
Do you mean who needs? Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry, who needs friends? Yes, of course.
No one needs enemies. No one wants enemies.
No one needs enemies. But yeah, you're right. They're paid a hell of a lot of money and they're paid off very well. But it doesn't mean it's acceptable. what they're living in. And we also have to remember in the lower leagues, they're not always paid off or paid very well in jobs. So I think it's really hard on managers. Once they go on a bad run, they have to, the things they have to deal with, and social media is probably one of the worst things.
It's all down to a complete, total loss of perspective. Completely. I mean, the world's gone insane with football. It really is. It's like, I just don't. It's become bizarre that that every football fan in the country, it seems, feels like their team has to be somehow always winning and always in the top half and always progressing and progressing. Not every team can always be progressing. That's not how it works. As I've said in this podcast before, Stu, we live in a hierarchical system. We live, a whole society at every single level is based on hierarchies. And for that to work, you're going to have people at the top and you're going to have people at the bottom. And in footballing terms, it seems that people just don't accept being at the bottom. But then, which is fair enough, you want to improve, but continually just replacing your manager every 5 minutes is not the way to do it. It's ludicrous and it's insane. But hey, is it going to change?
No, but you know what? I like it. You know, like when you learn to do something, you have to do it quite a lot of times for it to work. You have to have a process. Like, you know, when I was born and I was trying to walk, I didn't all of a sudden just be able to walk. I had to practice and perfect it.
Yeah, you're nearly there.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, but it's like you have to give people time. Yeah, and we've got, you know, we can probably allude on to that with Robbo. You know, you've got to give them time. You know, you can't all of a sudden just expect them just to be able to produce. It takes time to build a model. And then when you get the model, actually, it's quite good because you perfected it. You've trained, you've coached, all that sort of shit. Sorry, I saw. Dear me, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to edit that bit out.
Yeah, we've never sworn on this podcast.
Never. I said some dodgy words about footballers. Watford. Yeah, who would be a football manager?
The flip side to this, Stu, the counter argument is I have only been alerted to what's been said on social media because of what people's reactions to it. So I've gone and had a look. But to be honest with you, after Saturday, I've not really paid any attention to football. It's all passed me by. So I'll just be like, carry on with my life, happy as can be. And how many thousands of fans, how many people that were in the stadium for our last league game, say, against Wigan, how many people are actually affected by, how many people are on social media, how many people are contributing to social media, how many people just do as I wish I could do these days, Stu? Turn up, take my seat in the stadium, watch the game, go home, not think about it.
Do you know what I do on match days now? I didn't go to the Wigan games, I wasn't well. But I point blankly refuse to talk about the politics of football. When I go to Bow Lane now, I like just to see people that I like. I might see a few I don't want to talk to. I'm only joking. But I don't want to talk about the politics. I just want to watch football. And if we lose, do you know what? We lose. That sounds stupid, but it's no drama. It isn't going, who's at fault? Why, you know, was the left-hand side
for something to blame, yeah.
You know, Nesta Guinness-Walker is that, you know, if someone scores a goal, someone's got to make a mistake or someone's got to attack down a certain side unless you've got a goalkeeper, you know, let's say our goal-scoring goalkeeper from way back at youth level. You know, there's no fault with that.
It was an own goal.
But every goal, there is a fault by somebody. It's just the way of the world. Unless you're playing Man City, who you know, whatever you do, you can't defend someone what they do. But everyone, it just feels like it's a blame culture, right? And if we lose, that's it. We lose a game. It's only 3 points. You don't lose any more points for it. Yes, if you go on a bad run, but what is a bad run nowadays? I don't. You know, a bad run feels to me like if you lose 2 games on the bounce, you're in trouble.
Yeah. And the podcasts don't help with this, but that's also an element of saturation coverage, which I think really came in before social media. I think it came in with Sky Sports News, where it was just all the time, constantly stories repeating themselves, going over games, talking about situations, talking about managers, players, etc. And it just meant people were constantly thinking about it all the time. And that's not healthy. You have to step away from it and get a wider perspective on what actually the situation is. And I think people have just lost perspective, even within our own club at the moment. So anyway.
I think with social media, also one of the biggest problems is, you know, if you think about Twitter and Instagram, Twitter is sometimes about in 140 characters about being controversial to get someone to follow you.
Exactly.
It's that sort of buzz. It goes to the flip side of Instagram where you need to take a picture and you need to edit it to make yourself look better. I don't have that problem. And then you get more, you get more followers. It's that sort of world, isn't it? So in a way, social media, you have to be controversial to actually stand out, because the normal people don't stand out.
There is that on Twitter, I would agree with you. Facebook, though, I think is a little bit different, in which people are going on there with quite long-winded posts and diatribes where I actually think they're genuinely feeling those things that they're saying. And like I said, I think perhaps it's like I've said all along this podcast, for however many years we've been doing this, Stu, and we've been at the bottom of League One every single year. And I said, if we get relegated, we get relegated. No one's died. No one's collapsed in on themselves. It's fine. We're just going to play football at a different level. Really, and that's what I mean about total loss of perspective that we seem to have had in football. But hey, I don't know whether to go on to the Don's Trust stuff on Facebook now. I suppose the link is social media, I suppose. So even before we get on to Guiseley, yeah, I haven't really been reading it closely what's been going on. But it does seem, like we said last week, we've fallen into two camps here, haven't we? We're still battling this remain fan-owned, doesn't have to be 100%. We're already down to, we've already come way down from that anyway. So the threshold we can hit now is 75%. That's in the constitution of the Don's Trust. People are saying we should need to go further. We should get rid of it all, whatever it is. But that's the conversation that's happening right now. I said last week I didn't think people were particularly arguing in good faith, and I stand by that. I was listening to you. Sorry, listeners, we are rambling a little bit. But Stu was on BBC London on Wednesday evening with Jane Lonsdale, Hannah Kitcher, talking about AFC Wimbledon. And the presenter of that show was talking about the fan ownership versus selling up argument, debate, discussion, whatever you want to call it. Kept on referring to people that were around in 2002 when the move to Milton Keynes was green lighted, and saying how that scarred a lot of people. And that's why they're reticent to lose control of fan ownership, because they don't want it happening again. I must admit, I'm going to repeat what I said last week. When I'm looking at conversations, I'm not seeing this as that being the issue. I really don't. I think you and I were there, Stu, 20 years ago. My scars are not...
You were in nappies. I don't know what... Yeah.
I've got very vague memories of this. But what happened... I don't know if I'm scarred by it. I think there was a season of a lot of stuff that went on as a result of the move to Milton Keynes that was more of an issue than the actual move to Milton Keynes. That's a conversation for another day. But the more I see on social media, the more I see it's less of people being scared and reticent because of what happened. I see it, like I said last week, left and right. It's political spectrums. That's what it's come down to. It's that sort of left collectivism approach to whatever you want versus the right, more private industry, progress, investment, all that sort of side. And then you do have people in the middle that are saying you can balance the two with the correct model, which is I think where we sort of sit, or we certainly did last week. But what I don't know if I was getting into it now, but I mentioned that author earlier, Jonathan Haidt. Okay, he's written a great book called The Righteous Mind, and I'm going to quote from that really, as I've got it in front of me here, Stu. You can see it right here. That's the book. See, I am. Can you confirm that I am actually quoting from this book?
Yes, it's a white book with an orange back to it and some words.
Yeah, because it's a Penguin sort of classic section. So he talks about he has this metaphor of the elephant and the rider. Okay, where the elephant is, and this is a metaphor for your brain, basically. The elephant is your intuitive, instinctive responses and feelings about things, and your rider is sort of your logical reasoning processes. And you think that most people think that the rider guides the elephant, as you would expect. In real life, a man on top of an elephant is going to direct the elephant where to go. However, what he says is that our instinctive responses, i.e. the elephant, they lead, and the rider just has to justify why they're leading that way. So someone who instinctively has an emotional reaction to something, even if the facts and the logic go against them, because that was their intuition, their logical reasoning will come up with ways to justify their opinion. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that at the moment. Instinctively, left or right, and you're going, I think this, let me find all the reasons and justifications I can have for my feelings. And people are doing that on either side. That's, and you're not going to get people to change their opinions on those. It takes a very rational person to, it's like when you do something wrong. What happens when you do something wrong? You've instinctively done something wrong. Your intuition will come up, your logical part of your brain, the rider, will come up with reasons to justify your behavior and your actions.
Yeah, and you're not allowed, it's not allowed. If you sit in the middle, you're damned if you do. You're damned if you don't. Yeah. Because, if you sit in the middle and say, I want to just see the options, you're like, what, you want to sell up? Do you not remember about Bury and Macclesfield? And it feels like Derby, the clubs are named when I've had this conversation, but they don't go on the club, but no one remembers the clubs that actually are doing well. And the irony is the Plymouth Argyle model is really good. Got a rich owner in there who produced the most transparent financial records that people loved and wanted to copy. But actually, that was from a person who had put his money in and was building a model. So there are good owners, but the moment you say, I want to see, I don't think, I think the model where we are now probably hit the ceiling. We are struggling, can't keep funding the club. Let's have a look what's out there. You'll then chuck with a very harsh response. And it's not even, there's no reasoning with it. It's just a straight, well, you want to sell out. And then the conversation is gone.
Well, no, but there is the reasoning to it, because people will say, well, look, we don't want to, exactly as you just said there, we don't want to happen what's happened to Stockport and Bury and all these clubs, Darlingtons and all these people. We don't want that to happen to us because it's already happened in 2002. And that's the rider guiding the elephant emotional response to these things, which is perfectly understandable. You're right, though. Luton Town, there's another good example. There are tons of good examples. It's not me, like I said, it's not me advocating for losing our model. I think, like you said, we have to be realistic, though, and think, where financially, where is this model not taking us, but where is it at this very moment in time? Is it a League One, sustaining League One football? We've had this conversation for years with great difficulty, with huge difficulty. We have the stadium and all the resources to make ourselves a sustainable League One club. But at this very moment in time, it's going to be very, very difficult to do that for a long time because of the mountains of debt that we've piled up. And that's the issue, and that's the conflict. So we kind of have to be honest with ourselves and say, look, if we get relegated, like I said, it's not the end of the world. We go down, we think about being a financially sustainable club, which, by the way, is not something I think we've been. I think this is the one big lie we've had about this thing. At what point have we been financially self-sufficient at any point in terms of our success on the pitch? Because as I said to you before, Stu, non-league, we had a lot of transfer fees that were paid for, external people putting in money that wasn't part of our sustainable natural resources, but people argued that the money was coming in, so it was there and we didn't have to pay the money back. So it was sustainable. But what you then find is what happens when that money is taken away. And that's kind of where we're at now. That money isn't coming in as it was before. And also, did we not have a moment where we took some money from one budget and reallocated it to a playing budget beyond what we could sustainably afford, to the tune of about £1 million? And didn't that land us in a lot of trouble previously as well? So again, and this is just us shooting the breeze here, but as you mentioned there, Stu, the bad examples of bad owners where it goes wrong at football clubs, getting themselves into debt and things like that. We're fan owned, trust owned, and we did it to ourselves.
Yeah, and it's just a certain element of kicking the can down the road.
Well, that part of it,
yeah. That's where I am. I've been honest. I'm not one that sort of like just says what everyone else says. I've said, I think the model is great. As I said on the radio show that I was on, anyone that thinks it's been a walk in the park is having a laugh. It is, we've had many moments And the most scariest moment was December back in 2019 when, you know, we had people that wanted to sell out because and we managed to get the bonds, which was great. But, you know, we've had a pandemic since then. And we don't really know. Yeah, that sort of side of it. Investment wise, yes, we're going down to 75%, but that's it. I think we're getting to a stage where we are exhausting all the avenues we have. You know, and as I said on there, you know, the Tracy Crouch report comes out next week. If fair game does have some influence, and you know, we do get a bit of control in the governance and stuff like that, then maybe we might be okay with our model, because we haven't. Not every other club is stretching. We haven't got a stretch to then compete with the clubs that are stretching, because it's more difficult for us because of the money side of it. But I think the conversation is good to have, but I think you are allowed to sit in the middle. I'm happy to say to people when they challenge me, I was around in 2002. I know exactly the pain that it went through, but that was 2002. That was, you know, that was then. And I've got a 3.5-year-old boy now who I want to have a football club at a decent level. And this, you know, people saying, I watched, you know, I don't care if they go down to the conference. I do call that, I call it out for what it is, because you only have to see the reaction of fans at the moment, because we've dropped down to 17th place, going, we must spend in the transfer window, which is ironic because we're skint.
So, we've got no money to spend.
So it's not understanding the model. You know, I'll go mad if we spend money in the transfer window, because that could mean that we then borrow that money on a commercial loan, which is at interest at 10%. So if you understand the model and you respect the model, if you're calling out for money in the transfer window, you're reacting to what's on the pitch.
But is that not what we have to do? We not had to come to this point now where we say we're going to have to take a step back. We're going to have to take a step back because, well, are we not already doing that in some regards in terms of what we've done with the squad this year? And I'm not sure, we don't know the ins and outs of it, but if you look at just over the last couple of seasons, the reduction in spending we've had to do on the playing side of things, and you look at the experienced professionals that we've let go or have left and we haven't renewed contracts for, I mean, there's quite a long list of experienced names when you look at it. And I'm going back to Scott Wagstaff, Anthony Wordsworth, Luke O'Neill, Callum Riley,
Joe Figure.
Joe Figure. So it's already happened, and we're not just now. People perhaps got to acknowledge that. I mean, there are people, and we as we were talking at the start of the show, that are looking towards the. Well, I suppose it's in some ways it's natural. The management staff, coaching staff, whatever you want to call it. But as I said to you years ago, Stu, when everyone was calling for Neil Ardley's head, I was thinking, what are you expecting is going to happen when Neil leaves? Are you expecting someone's going to come in and suddenly make us playoff contenders? Because if you are thinking that, you're an absolute cloud cuckoo land. It's the nature of where we were as a football club, and we're even in a worse position now financially. You're just going to have to accept that this is the level we're at. And if we want, as I said, if we want to be sustainable as a football club, then we're not going to sustain League One football. We're going to have to do it at a lower level for a bit until such time as we can maximise the stadium and become more self-sufficient.
I think the problem with Plough Lane, and I said to you this a little while ago, that Plough Lane could be our problem. It could be a problem, which I know sounds stupid. But with fans now, what you're seeing on match day in terms of structure is impressive. What's on the pitch is reduced because of the structure we need to pay for.
Yeah.
And if you ask a fan, and this is the thing, a fan will want the match day, the team on the pitch, to be the best it can. But because of our debt, we're having to restrict it. And you only have to look at the squad now. So, you know, people going, well, you could tell the depth wasn't good enough. We all knew that. We knew we were striker shorts. And the strikers we did have, we knew we'd have to loan out to get the experience. We're asking for that. Should we bring them back? No, don't bring them back. Because this model has to, you know, if you look at the Saturday United game the other night, we had Byler and come back, and we had Curry come back as well. You can see the progression in them, but they're not ready. They need to go out and loan, and we need that model, but we need a long-term approach. And as fans, we can't now be giving Robbo and the players grief, because these kids, I think our average age is 23. I looked at it today. Our average age is 23.8 years. The average in League One is just under 27 years. And our average is probably made up of Darius Charles being a bit on the older side and that. But our actual our age, these are kids. And when they look around, they don't have experience to help them. They have kids who have not been through it. Yeah. So we really, as fans, we are the experience to give to them, because we're the ones who should be going, we're with you, but we're not. So, we at a Guiseley game, there was a certain turn in some of the fans. And maybe they need to understand what the process is, because you know what, if we get relegated this season, we get relegated. But we will have players that now will have a year's experience. We'll have the players that come back from loan who had 30, 40 games in a season, and they will be ready. But if we want instant success on this model, the model's wrong. And it isn't the model wrong on the pitch. It's the model with the ownership, because the money isn't coming through.
I love conversations like this, because we are just, as I say, shooting the breeze and just talking over the issues, and there's no right or wrong. And along the way, you're going to come into certain contradictions, perhaps contradictions is the right word, but sort of clashes and dichotomies and whatever. There was a little turn in the Guiseley game where there was some booing. And Stu, you're right there in terms of young squad. We do need to support them and understand that they're a young squad and understand our financial positions and things like that. The flip side to that is, as I've always said, you can't control people's reactions, and people are free to react as they wish. We've moaned about social media, but you can't control. Like I said, you can't control people's. The only way to control social media is to delete it completely, which I wish we could. I'd delete the internet if I could. If I was omnipotent, well, I'd probably want to kill myself, but that's another joke. If I was omnipotent, the first thing I'd do would be to dissolve Chelsea and Watford. And then the second thing I'd do is get rid of the internet, because I think life was perfectly fine before it. It really, really was. Do you know what we were talking about the other day, Stu? And I haven't had a chance to do this because you've set this online league, which is like the old school play-by-mails. Oh my God, the play-by-mail games. This was pre-internet.
Yeah.
We lived perfectly happily with this. Every week when that envelope came through the letterbox, that was the blooming highlight of the week. The excitement you got from that coming to see what your result was, to see how your team had got on. None of this football manager nonsense, constant instant gratification that we have in our society, which is a huge problem. No, you had to wait. You sent off that team sheet. You put it in the post.
How did we ever think that was good?
That was great. Oh, Stu, I'd go back to that now. I would go back to that. Click of the fingers. You can't understate how our culture has been ruined by literally instant gratification on every single level.
I was watching TV this morning. They were talking about there's 5.
Your sound's gone. I can't hear a word you're saying.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Can you repeat that? Sorry, I do apologize.
Yeah. So on the TV this morning, they were talking about the red telephone boxes, the old style telephone boxes. There's about 5,000 of them that the condition of them is terrible. But it got me thinking back to how they were talking about the old presenters were talking about the noise you used to hear when the money was running out and you had to go and quickly put your 2p's in or stuff like that, and you panic. And then someone was talking about they were a journalist and they said that they would go abroad and be given a BT card. So they didn't have that and put the card in. But what it got me thinking back was a conversation I was having with, I can't remember who it was now, but I was saying about when I was younger and I started going to away games, you didn't know the scores of other games.
Yeah.
You just didn't know. And there used to be a time, I think you can remember this, is when you stop at a train station and you get it was a green newspaper with all the latest score, all the scores.
Pink?
Was it pink or green?
Let me find.
Or maybe it was a couple. But it was basically now I can't remember what it's called. People on Twitter might be able to let us know. But it was basically a instant newspaper that was run with all the scores, all the results, and you would go through and go, crikey, such and such. It was just old school, but it was fun. And I used to remember calling my mates on a Sunday morning, talking to them about the game because they hadn't been able to watch it on TV. There was no highlights, and you just discuss things. Yeah. But now it's the online game we're playing. I must admit, I'm going to sack my team already because they're rubbish. So that's obviously a problem. But I can't believe we played. Waiting a week for a result Like I get upset now if Netflix comes on and a whole series isn't available for me straight away. I can't wait a week for the next series, for the next episode.
It's ruined us.
It has. It's ruined us all. It wasn't. Hey, look, we're sounding old now, aren't we? But
No.
some things were good in the old days.
Things were better in the old days. You know what? We've had this conversation so many times on the podcast because this is my mindset. It's been my mindset for a while. But green and or pink news or whatever it was, it could have been either or, green or pink. So, but yeah, no, instant gratification has killed it. And how did we get onto that scenario? We're talking about internet. I don't know now. This is what happens when you shoot. Really can't control people's reactions. Can't remember now.
I was going to say something, right? I think back now when I was younger. Remember when Lost? That was on Channel 4.
Yeah.
A weekly. Now, if that was now, I'd have been able to watch the whole series in one night.
Yeah, but that's rubbish.
And I used to hate Channel 4. Like 9 o'clock, I watch it. And I remember I got so excited when the final episode of Lost was screened at the same time as it was in America.
Yeah.
So there used to be a delay.
Yeah.
And I was so excited that I was watching the same, like it was like, I wouldn't get any, like, there's a little bit of internet. But it just shows you how spoiled we are now with it. And you're right, linking it into football, it's going, I want that instant success now. If we haven't won this week, we must win in it. I'm hearing people saying that now we've got must-win games. Must-win games in November.
I know.
It's just crazy. Reality check has got to come in at some point.
TV's better when you have to wait a week for it. It really is. When you get into that routine of it, just everything was better before. Do you know what I miss most of all? Absolute God's honest truth. Blockbuster Video. That was an event in itself. And you're just like, get a film, go down, have a quick browse, see what you want. Do you know what? When I was very young, it was getting all the WrestleManias. Loved that. Going to Blockbuster, get a WrestleMania. Oh, they got a new one. I've not seen that one before. Happy days. Take it home. Oh, look, the postman's been. Got my play by mail. Oh, let's see how my team did. There we go. Oh, done very nicely. Okay, fill out my team sheet. Send it off for next week. Happy days. Go in the back of my little Transformers comic to see the person lads, see who can trade toys with and stuff like that. Internet's ruined everything. Sorry, we've got well off topic again. Sorry.
But you know what? My son will never understand Blockbuster. He will never understand, right? Going to Blockbuster with the latest film coming out and seeing if there was actually any copies available. Like, I don't know what your Blockbuster was like, but you'd have the actual empty cover, and then behind it would be the box with the actual DVD or anything like that. And it would be I remember you should look around the corner and be praying that there was still one copy, or if not, I used to wait for the returns to come in. But it was, do you know what? It was exciting. Yes. It's like in a way sometimes of success. If it comes too easy, then you haven't achieved it. I was watching, get back on the football a little bit, at the Macclesfield. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the Macclesfield documentary on BBC with Bobby Savage and the owner. And the owner, he built his money up through selling cars, and then he sold it to Auto Trader, who bought it. And what he said actually is that he went in, when he sold his company, he had all the money he needed to. But actually, he went into a series of watching Netflix all day, having no ambition, because actually he had everything he achieved. He had everything. Yeah. There was nothing to work for anymore. He actually needed something to work for. And I suppose in a way, when you get everything too easily, i.e. in football, it's a bit more fun when, if we get through this season and next season, we have those players produced through loans, then we'll be more satisfied that our model is working in a long-term way.
There are people in this world that don't understand this, that actually work is very important, because that's where you get a lot of your sort of, like you say, working towards a goal is what gives you an element of meaning in life and something to work towards and progress. And then when you get to your weekends, for example, if you work a long work week, you feel like you've earned it and you actually get that reward for what you've done. Your sort of work reward ratio, whatever it might be. People don't understand these things, but anyway.
And then you go to football, you lose, and you think, well, that's good. I've just spent the money that I've earned, and we've lost. Rubbish.
Tell you what, though, saying that, Stu, 20 quid it cost me to watch that game with guys on the weekend. Their goalkeeper, his goalkeeper, he watched that second half for free. He got to watch the whole thing. He
had his own box.
He had his own box. I could have got him a chair, and he could have loved it. I got him a cup of tea. He'd have been well happy. Because he had nothing to do in that second half. It was poor.
Do you know what though? But why? And I did. I'm not going to say I was right, but I did say to you, I thought it was going to be a tough game. And I actually thought it could have been a draw. And in all fairness, it could have been a draw.
It should have been a draw.
But why are we surprised that a team from a lower level comes up, plays 10% better than what they probably normally do? And we go, I can't believe that they played that style of football. Why are they in that league? Why are we surprised?
Well, I'm not surprised by their level of performance because we've been there before. And I must admit, part of me, especially when we got the goal close to half time, it reminded me of when we beat Aldershot in the trophy, when we went 1-0 down just before half time and we were the lower league team at the time. And I thought in the back of my head, oh, this is very similar in terms of the levels of performances that are on display here. So I was a bit worried about that. No, we shouldn't be surprised by what they did. What we have to perhaps look at is our use of the ball. Because of all the things we've said about budgets and young players and the experience, and there was an element of that where things weren't, as Robert alluded to afterwards in the press conference, like things aren't going quite as you'd want them to, and tendency to start to lose your head a little bit, which I think a couple of players did, I must admit. Not Hennigan, by the way. Hennigan and Shoko, I thought were excellent, and Nick in goal as well. I thought they were very, very good. But then when we got possession, especially in that second half, I don't know what went wrong. I don't know what was going on. Do you know what? You remember a couple of years ago, I had that huge rant, which is sort of perhaps hypocritical from what I've been saying on this week's podcast. But then that was a few years ago, and people change. Huge rant about the performance at Haringey, which was poor. That was Haringey was a better performance than Guiseley. It was.
Yeah, I think how I looked at it on Saturday was that we don't have that confidence now to play between the lines, and we don't have the options.
But do you know what was weird? Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Do you know what was weird about that? We started the game, and in the first 5-10 minutes, we were playing through the lines with speed, real high tempo, and then it just seemed like all of a sudden it just stopped. Couldn't work it out.
There's just not the options available, and that's the thing. You got Atty Hartigan, and when Atty Hartigan has to go searching deeper to get the ball, that's when where the problems are. I felt we were a little bit about 10 yards too deep. To really penetrate and really get the balls. There's no point trying to get the ball to McLaughlin. McLaughlin.
No, there's no point because he's in Morecambe.
That's a long ball.
Yeah, it'd be awful.
We've got three flair players: Asal, McCormick, and Radoni. If you don't get them on the ball in areas, then they're a waste. And in the first half, they were interchanging their positions so much to try and get that space, but just couldn't get the ball. Guiseley didn't really want to come out too much because actually we're better on the counter attack. We're more of a counter attacking team.
Yes.
But also teams know that we will hurt them. I think at the moment we don't have that confidence to play the ball in tight areas. I think we're passing it when we could. We're passing it slowly, tempo slow. And we've lost confidence. There's just no doubt about that. Teams will work this out. And the final thing that we can't miraculously make every player, I don't know, 2 stone heavier and loads of muscle and maybe grow a couple of inches. We are a young team and teams will bully us. And when they're bullying us, unfortunately, in any walk of life, if you get bullied a little bit on the football pitch, you do go missing a little bit. And that did happen on Saturday.
Yeah, I felt like we lost pretty much every battle, every individual duel on Saturday, especially in that second half. It did feel like that.
Yeah.
And if they had a bit more quality, I mean, it's a conference north side, so you accept this. That's where they're going to be lacking. They would have gotten something out of that. But hey,
they were disappointed. I was sitting next to the press people, and to be honest with you, they looked disappointed.
Mm.
They looked disappointed because they saw it as an opportunity to get through. And if you had turned up, the same old thing. If you turned up and didn't know what was in what league, you wouldn't have said that we're in a higher league. We didn't really show that extra quality that we had.
We showed one moment of it, which was Ollie Palmer, and he took his goal really, really well. And I'd have given him man of the match just for that alone. I know we've mentioned the centre halves and the goalkeeper, but the match winner is Palmer because he wins a flick on. He's alert to the second ball, and he's in composure. Really, really good. So there you go. That was our match winner. And at the end of the day, we did win the game, and we got through to the second round, and we got an absolutely shite draw. So be careful what you wish for.
I'm happy with the draw.
I mean, I'm not unhappy with the draw, but
travel.
I'm not even worried about travelling, to be honest with you. The worst draw you can get in the FA Cup is against a team in your own league. You want something different, and Guiseley was something different, which was good.
Yeah.
Gillingham is awful. Cheltenham, not much better because we're playing them. Oh, no, we're not anymore. It's been postponed.
No,
Sorry,
postponed.
They're all the same to me. These Cheltenham, Crewe, Fleetwood, they're all the same. They all play in red. They've all got no fans. They're all the same. So,
who do you want though? I want Gillingham. End of, because it's just no matter how much we don't like Evans and Rayner, we still enjoy it.
We'll lose. That's the problem. As awful as Gillingham were when they played us earlier in the season, we'll probably lose that one. I don't care.
And get your tickets. Let's try and sell tickets there. Let's hope they're not 20 quid. Oh dear, please be a bit. Let's just do 10 quid. That'd be nice.
Unfortunately, with that, it's all dependent on the clubs reaching an agreement, and this is what happened. And we still got 5,000 odd in the end for Guiseley.
Yeah, and that really weird. Like someone said to me, that would have been a great attendance at Kings Meadow.
Well, we would have been.
We would have got that.
Highly illegal, but yeah.
And that's the weird thing, isn't it? I don't think it's been spoiled. I just think when you've seen Plough Lane 7,500, 8,000, and it's not as full, the atmosphere was a bit different.
Yeah, do you know what as well? I was a bit annoyed with people saying, because there's people in the main stand as well, when Guiseley started singing things like "We Forgot That You Were Here" and "Okay, Sarah, Sarah, we're going to Wembley," and people were mocking them. I'm thinking, where have you been? Like, this is what happened. This is what every single lower league team sings all the time, and they were visibly actually mocking it and getting annoyed by it. I'm just thinking.
I found it funny when they were singing League One, you're having a laugh or something like that. I'm like,
Football League, you're having a laugh. Yeah,
we are today because we haven't showed the quality.
We've all done that. We've done it. Stu, this is going back to when we played like Man United and we'd be like, Champions League, you're having a laugh. Like, this is what always happens when you've got a smaller team against a bigger team. The smaller team's fans will sing these songs. They will, when they're away from home, they will always, always, always be louder. And yes, people seem to find this as like some, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, epiphany every single time it happens. Like, oh my God, why were our fans so rubbish? Well, we're always rubbish against games where you're expected to win and you're the home side. Fans are always quiet. Go to Old Trafford, go to when they were winning everything. Old Trafford was dead quiet because that's
I just think nowadays when you get a club that's drawn against a team, what are they, 3 divisions lower than us?
Yes.
You very rarely get these high scores nowadays. The gap, I want to say the gap isn't that big, but these teams are not they're decent players. They have pride in their performance, and you very rarely get the 5 or 6 nils. If you look around the FA Cup results, Pompey 1-0 winners against Harrow, weren't there? There wasn't many massive scores, and so I suppose in a way, they might have been frustrated the fact that they thought they were going to turn up and we were going to win 5-0. That's not the case. These teams won't right there. They're not going to roll over and get their bellies tickled. They want to get through.
But thankfully, we were the ones that managed to eke it out and get ourselves over the line. And like we said, Gillingham watch out in the next round. Very few upsets. St Albans beat Forest Green. That was an upset in terms of non-league teams progressing. And Solihull have a chance when they host Wigan next week, having got a 0-0 draw at whatever their stadium is called. I'm going to call it the Wigan Stadium because I don't know what it's called these days.
You could call it the Wigan Stadium.
I'm going to call it the Wigan Stadium. I think it's got some stupid sponsor name. That's why I'm not going to use it.
We should just all call it by the old name.
But they don't have an old name.
The Sunderland Stadium.
Well, that's the Stadium of Light, to be fair. That's okay.
Stadium of something, but it hasn't got much light in it.
Well, no, not
who got beat by Mansfield in the cup. Sunderland are dropping like a stone. That'll be a next manager under pressure. And we laugh because I'm saying it now. He'll be under pressure. He shouldn't be under pressure.
But he will be.
He will be because they've all of a sudden dropped into the playoff places.
In the interests of equality and diversity, Mansfield's ladies' team, are they called Women's Field? Elsewhere in League One this weekend, because that's gone, FA Cup's gone. We've not got a game. It's been postponed because of international call-ups. But however, Plymouth, Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesday are still all playing at time of recording. And there's also a big game in Wickham hosting Portsmouth. So keep an eye out for those scores when you're doing your Christmas shopping on Saturday or whatever it is you're choosing to do with your time instead. No, what you'll be doing is you'll be sat watching Don's Trust Hustings on YouTube, which we're conducting on Saturday. Of course you will be. Of course. 12 candidates are up for 5 positions on the board. Voting will start after the hustings. You can check it out on our YouTube channel, youtube.co.uk/9YRS podcast. 10 o'clock, finishing hopefully 1:30, 2 o'clock, something like that. Is there anything to add there?
You know what? It would be nice though, because we've done them at Kingsmeadow when we had to find a bucket when there was a flood in the what was it? Not the hallway, the gangway. I don't know what was it called. The corridor.
Alexa Bliss turned up and she saw me.
But yeah, we had one year where we had to get a bucket because there was a leak. And we thought we were going to all be electrocuted. And this week we were able to do our hustings from Plough Lane, which is magical. Even now, I don't know about. I was asked a question on the radio show about what is Plough Lane like. I still find it a little bit of a surreal moment. I still love the place. Still look around as if like I like this. This ain't bad. And then we start a match. We're just not playing well, but yeah, it'll be nice to have Plough Lane. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. 12 candidates. It's a lot, and a lot of new people standing. And that's always good to make sure we've got people that are engaged and wanting to stand.
You don't have to be engaged to be married to stand. Just saying. We've run late and we've sounded great, but we have run late. So we will skip 20 years ago this week this week because I wanted to speak more about it. So we will hold over a particular game until next week and talk about that one in more detail because we don't have an actual football fixture to discuss next week. So might as well do that. Right. That's it for this week. Thank you for joining us, Stu.
Quick. We've rambled and that went really quick.
Yeah, I know. Apologies for our rambling listeners, but we're just shooting the breeze, we're just having a conversation. Just imagine you're just sat on the train somewhere and you're hearing two people have a chat and you're earwigging from the table behind and just seeing what's going on in the world. And that's what we've done.
That's what you say, by the way. You know, you talk about your 20 years. I saw on Twitter, social media can be good for some things. Ivan Leonardson's goal against Aston Villa.
Yes.
I actually forgot how good a move that goal was. I went back a couple of times thinking they said we couldn't play football back in the day.
Yeah,
absolute magical goal.
You like that word magical? This is becoming
magical.
Your favorite adjective.
It's Christmas, isn't it? It's Christmas is magical.
No, it's November.
It's exciting. It's exciting. Like we got the brochure through from Asda with the Christmas food. It's amazing. You try and book a slot to get delivered, you can't get anything delivered. No slots are available to be delivered. It means I have to go out. What's that all about?
Instant gratification, Stu. Just press a button.
They come to me. Exactly. They come to me.
Yeah. I thought they were. Hold on. Isn't that Randy Orton's theme music? One for the wrestling fans there. Anyway, right. That is it. Thank you for listening, listeners. Don's Trust Elections, as I said, this Saturday. So please tune into those. They will be available live and on demand afterwards as well, all via our YouTube channel. Thank you, Stu.
Thank you.
Apologies to Alexa Bliss if you're listening for what I said earlier. Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, 2 + 2 = 4. And we shall speak to you again next Friday.